The lobby felt colder than usual as Michael Anderson stood at the front of the grand conference room, staring at the faces of his employees, his former oppressors. They didn't know why they had been summoned, but the tension was undeniable. Nervous glances flickered across the room, bouncing from one uneasy face to the next. David Miller, the once dominant manager, avoided eye contact, pretending to shuffle papers that didn't need shuffling. Jessica Taylor, a receptionist who had been dismissive and sharp with Michael in the past, kept adjusting her hair as if that small act could somehow shield her from the heavy atmosphere settling over the room. Michael let the silence linger, stretching it like a taut wire ready to snap. He could feel their discomfort, and he wanted them to feel it. Every second ticked louder in their ears, a reminder of the vulnerability they now shared. His heart beat steadily, but beneath his calm exterior was a storm of emotions he had kept bottled up for far too long. "Today," Michael began, his voice calm but firm, "we're going to talk about how deceit has not only damaged this hotel, but has destroyed all of you." Their expressions hardened, shields snapping into place, as if to defend against the inevitable blow. David Miller's face tightened, his jaw twitching slightly. Michael recognized that flicker of arrogance still lingering, but he also saw the cracks forming beneath the surface. Michael's eyes narrowed. "For the past few weeks, I've been watching you all very closely. And do you know what I've seen?" His gaze swept over them like a blade, pausing on Jessica, Christopher Harris, and David. "Lies. You've lied to each other, to yourselves, and to me." He pressed a button on the projector remote, and the room dimmed. One by one, emails, security footage, and internal documents flooded the screen. Conversations of backstabbing, secret dealings, and blatant manipulations unfolded before them. The color drained from David Miller's face, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the edge of the table. Jessica's mouth parted slightly, her hand frozen mid-air as if the footage itself had stunned her. "Each of you built your career on deceit," Michael said, pausing the video at a damning image of David redirecting company funds. "And today, I'm showing you where that's led." The weight of the evidence pressed down like a crushing force. Michael stepped forward, his shadow stretching across the table, looming over the man who had once denied him a room at this very hotel. "Your schemes have destroyed you," Michael continued, his voice unwavering. "You thought you could hide behind deceit, but there's no hiding anymore." The room remained silent, except for the sound of quiet breathing and the faint hum of the projector. Christopher Harris, one of the few employees who had always treated Michael with respect, looked at him with a faint nod, as if silently acknowledging the long-overdue justice. But Michael wasn't done. Exposure wasn't enough. The transformation began slowly. Employees like Jessica and David lost privileges they had once taken for granted. New faces emerged in leadership roles. People like Olivia Robinson, a bright and capable woman Michael hired as the new hotel manager. Olivia, with her sharp instincts and dedication, quickly became the symbol of change at the hotel. Michael trusted her to steer the hotel in the right direction, where integrity and competence would be the pillars of their success. More new hires followed. People like James and Sarah Johnson, who had been overlooked in the past, now filled leadership roles. Their children, Ethan and Mia, often visited the hotel, becoming a symbol of the fresh energy Michael sought to cultivate. One afternoon, Michael entered the lobby and spotted David Miller behind the reception desk, nervously rearranging papers. His hands trembled slightly, betraying the frustration simmering beneath his outward calm. A family approached the desk: James, Sarah, Ethan, and Mia Johnson. David's face paled the moment he recognized them. "Good afternoon," David greeted, but his voice trembled, betraying his unease. James nodded politely. "We've booked a room for a week. We'd like to check in." David's hands hovered awkwardly over the keyboard, his fingers slow and hesitant. It was clear he was grappling with the humiliation of serving the very people he once dismissed. Michael stood at a distance, observing the quiet but powerful moment. David's pride visibly unraveled with each keystroke. As the Johnson family left to settle into their room, Michael approached David. "You denied me a room once," Michael said, his tone quiet but cutting. "Today, you served those you dismissed." David's gaze dropped to the floor. "It's just a job," he muttered, but the defeat in his voice betrayed him. "How does it feel?" Michael asked, stepping closer. David hesitated before finally meeting Michael's eyes. I don't know," David whispered. Michael let the silence hang between them. "You'll have time to figure it out," he said before walking away. Later, Michael gathered the entire staff in the conference room. David Miller, Jessica Taylor, Christopher Harris, Olivia Robinson, and the rest of the old team sat side by side with the new hires. "Today, you stand before a choice," Michael announced. "You can leave with compensation and forget this chapter of your life, or you can stay and work under the new rules." David's hand shot up, his face pale. "And if we leave?" he asked. "You'll start over," Michael replied, "without your privileges, but with the chance to rebuild." David slouched back in his chair, defeated. As the days passed, some employees packed up and left quietly. Jessica Taylor chose to stay, working alongside Olivia Robinson and Christopher Harris to rebuild the hotel's image. David Miller lingered, his pride shattered, but unable to fully walk away from the only life he knew. On David's last day, Michael found him standing at the exit, his shoulders slumped. "You never even tried to know who I was," Michael said softly. David didn't respond. He nodded silently and walked out the door, fading into the bustling street outside. Michael watched him go, not with anger or satisfaction, but with closure. Justice had been served, and the hotel's future looked brighter than ever.